I'm Steve G. Jones, and in this module, you're going to learn about discovering your pathways to success as a business success coach. It is important that you are on top of your game. It's important that you are on the cutting edge of everything related to business coaching. So that goes beyond this program. You may take this program, learn everything in it, but that's really just the start. You need to make sure that you are constantly updating your knowledge with current events, current success stories, and so forth. You need to make sure that you are essentially a wealth of information on the topic. So rather than just taking this lightly, rather than just saying, I took a course, I got a certificate, now I'm a business success coach, what I want you to do is make a commitment right now that beyond the vast technology you're going to learn in this program, that you commit to constantly learning. You need to make sure you're constantly taking in new information that's going to move you forward, new information that's going to expand your knowledge base, new information that's going to help you be a wealth of information for your clients. And that's really what it's all about. It's all about you empowering your clients. So part of this means doing your research. Now, this doesn't have to mean that you go to a library and look at journals and so forth. In fact, a lot of the information you're going to need won't be found in journals. A lot of the information you need won't be found in discussions of a clinical nature. It's going to be found in success stories. It's going to be found in you finding out what's working in the business place. So I urge you to start reading the Wall Street Journal. I urge you to start reading any business journals that you can get your hands on, but they don't need to be technical journals. You don't need to bore yourself with technical jargon. You don't need to become an encyclopedia of knowledge in a boring sense. You need to be dynamic with the information. So the best way to digest information in order to make sure you're dynamic and interesting with it is to read publications that are already designed for the general public. Rather than research journals, I want you to start reading publications that are designed for pretty much everyone. Sometimes there are specific journals you can get in your area in business coaching. However, if you start reading publications that are designed for everyone, you're going to find that you're more fluent with the information. You're not trying to come from a lofty place. Rather than talking down to people, you're going to be relating to them in a way that they understand. And that's very important. So rather than creating a distinction between yourself being up here and your clients being down here, I want you to make sure that you're meeting them at a certain level. I want you to make sure that you're giving them the information they need, but not talking down to them, not coming from a lofty place. So the best way to do that is just to get mainstream publications concerning business to find out what the business trends are. You need to know if there's a major collapse in the stock market, for example. You don't need to know everything about stocks, but you should be conversational with it. You need to know about business trends. What's working in the workplace? What are the latest innovations going on in the workplace to help motivate employees? You need to be on top of this because the worst thing that can happen to you is that somebody in a business setting will say, hey, did you hear about the latest findings about what works in the workplace concerning uh, motivation of employees over the age of 40? And you think to yourself, I really wish I knew that information. But if it's something that's available to everyone and you simply haven't read it or haven't seen it, that reflects poorly on you. Now, if it's a little nuance that they bring up and they say, well, have you heard about so-and-so's study where they took 120 business students at Harvard and subjected them to 20 hours of continuous work and found out that some of them were dropping off at the 10-hour point? That's very technical. And you may not have read it, and that's fine because most people wouldn't have read it. But what you need to realize is that the people you are working with represent most people. They represent the people who are in the world. They represent people who have access to certain information. So you need to make sure that whatever they have access to, in other words, what the mainstream has access to, that you have access to, and that no one's catching you off guard. This means that every day when you get up, you're excited about reading business news. That means when you get up, you're excited about finding out what innovations are being talked about in the news. Much of the news is information that you probably don't want to hear about. Much of the news is what happened to somebody that's not so great. Much of the news is essentially not going to help you at all. However, there are segments of the news that you should be tuned into. There are specific business programs in the news that you can tune into. There are specific stations on TV and some available through cable, also, depending on what your access is to TV and cable. Specific programs that talk about what you need to know. So I'm not telling you to watch CNN 24 hours a day because that really won't do you much good. What I am telling you is that when there's a program on related to business, you should tune into it. When there's a publication that's available to everyone, you should have that publication. In other words, do your research. Rather than becoming a professor who does research of an academic nature in journals, just absorb in your environment what's already there. You're going to find that everything is already available to you. Many of the publications that you will want to read are available at a local newsstand. You can just start noticing them. Much of the news that you will want to read is available online. There are ways to configure your internet connection to give you the news that you need of a business nature. So I want you to look into all of this. I want you to take an interest in this. I want you to realize that you have an obligation to your clients to stay on top of things. And that's really what makes the difference between you, because you are going to be looked at as a top professional, a leader in your business, and someone else who's not, someone else who's really not interested in business to the degree you are, and they have maybe a certification, but they're really not staying on top of things. They're not staying relevant. Think about it. A medical doctor, for example, once they become qualified as a medical doctor, it doesn't end there. Every year, they are required to take CEUs, continuing education units. And this makes sure for them, for their clients, and the general public that they know what they're talking about, that they know what they're doing, that they're on top of things, that they didn't just graduate from medical school in 1952 and since then haven't learned anything new, and they are not really up to date on current medical procedures. That would be a disaster. So think about that. Although we don't impose strict regulations on you, like the American Medical Association imposes on medical doctors, you need to take it upon yourself to make sure that your information is constantly updated, that you are on top of things, that you are aware of what's going on. So look at it as exciting. Look at it as an adventure. Look at it as something that's going to help you become stronger, better, more powerful, more sought after. That's what makes the difference. And if you think for 1 minute that all of your research is kind of a boring waste of time and you really don't want to do it, I want to assure you that it pays off. It pays dividends. It pays rich dividends immediately. When you walk into a business situation and you are a wealth of information on all sorts of business topics, guess what happens? People notice. They notice that you know things. They notice that you're not just there with a finite bit of information. They know that you are a wealth of information. In fact, your information is infinite. Why? Because you update it every day. Every day you're alive, you take in more and more information. This makes your knowledge base infinite. And your clients are going to realize this. They're going to realize that you are a wealth of information. So you'll walk in to do one job for one client, and they'll ask you questions. By doing so, they'll find out your level of knowledge about the various topics in business coaching, the various ways that can help you. And even though you may finish with that client, someone else is going to want you because they're going to hear about your knowledge, or that person will assign you to something else after you complete this project. Knowing things is always beneficial. That should be your motto. Knowing things is always beneficial. In other words, knowledge is power. Knowledge is real power. And you need to make sure that you are as powerful as possible. So it's all up to you. I encourage you to do your research. Along these lines, you want to make sure that you have a coaching framework in place. It's nice to have a lot of knowledge, and it's nice to consistently update your knowledge, but you must be able to take that knowledge and organize it. So part of that is having a coaching framework in place. And this is getting down to a very basic level. You're going to have a basic way that you like to work with clients. And what you're going to find is that not all clients want to work with you the way you want to work with them. So you may show up after going through the certification program and say, okay, here's the way we're going to do it. Here's my plan. It's a 5-level plan with several sub-levels, and that's what we're going to do. And you may be surprised to find out, if I hadn't said this to you, that your clients will say, I don't think so. What we're going to do is what we want to do, and you're going to do it the way we want you to do it, or nothing's going to happen. That's reality. That's what you're going to face. Usually it's somewhere in the middle. Usually it's a combination of what you feel is ideal in that situation and what they feel is ideal in that situation. So you're going to have to meet halfway in many situations. But having a framework is important. You must go in there with something. You must go in there with a plan. And that plan may be changed or they may completely get rid of that plan. That's possible. But you must show up with something because one of the worst things that can happen to you is you go into a situation and they turn to you and say, what are we going to do? And you turn to them and say, I don't know. I was hoping that you would have a plan for me. That's not an appropriate answer. The appropriate answer is, in the absence of any plan that they may have, you start presenting your plan. In fact, having it in a PowerPoint form would be very beneficial. Having it in a form that they can read would be very beneficial. Having it memorized so that you can present it will be beneficial so that they can see you, the visual sense, they can hear you, auditory sense, and they can touch something. You can give them a handout, kinesthetic sense, so they can get a full sense of everything that you are presenting. But you must be prepared and you must have a plan. It's also important to value your client's time. You may have the notion that when you walk in, time stands still and they should listen to you and bow down to you because you're the business leader and you have great things to say. And if they don't listen to you, their business is going to fail. It's probably not the way they look at it. The way they look at it is probably something more like this. They've set aside 15 minutes of their day to talk to you to find out what you're going to do, at least that day, if not that week or month. They want to hear your plan. They want to have it short and to the point, and they want to find out what's going on in that time. They have other things to do. Their life is not devoted to working with you. In fact, the reason they hired you is to ease some of the burden that they have. There are some things that they don't know, or some things that they need help with, or some things that they simply are not able to get to in a day, or some concepts that they're having difficulty implementing. That's why they've hired you. You are there to save the day. You're also there to make sure you're not wasting their time. So when you make a presentation to someone, say everything that you need to say, but keep it concise. I want you to realize a fundamental of communication, and that is talking and listening. That's really all communication is, talking and listening. Communication works like this. If you and I are communicating, I talk while you're not saying anything, you're just listening. You hear what I say, you formulate a response based on what I just said, and as you're talking, I'm not saying anything, I'm listening, then I formulate a response based on what you said, not based on something that I have come up with beforehand that I want to push, but I'm basing it on what you're saying. Now, I still have my agenda, I still have the ideas that I want to move forward, but I'm listening in real time to what you're saying. And that's changing what I'm going to say. And it's also perhaps causing me to come up with some questions. That's a conversation. It's based on what's going on. And as we get more into the material, I'm going to reiterate this point and go into a little bit more detail. But realize for now that conversation is 50-50. 50% you, 50% me. 50% you, 50% your client. One of the main aspects of a business success coach that differentiates him or her from other business success coaches that maybe aren't as successful is confidence. Confidence is the swagger, as they say in recent wording. It's your ability to strut your stuff. Now, this comes from you actually knowing what's going on, from you having skills. I want you to realize that whatever your skill level is, whatever your knowledge level is, you have those skills. No matter who you are, no matter what you know something. You have a knowledge base. That should give you confidence. No one is ever going to require you or force you to go outside of your knowledge base. If it comes right down to it and someone says, do you know how to do this? And you don't know how, you can say no. But you have the confidence to say no. When you are coming from a place that speaks of the abilities you actually have and the knowledge you actually have, you speak confidently. And I notice this a lot when speaking to professionals. When I ask questions of a doctor or I ask questions of an attorney, I can tell when they're confident. I can tell when they're speaking from a place of knowledge. And usually, doctors and attorneys, being licensed professionals, do speak from a place of knowledge. They don't feel the need to embellish. They don't feel the need to make up things where they don't know something. They simply state the facts. If they don't know something, they say they don't know it. That's power. So I want you to have that same confidence. There are things you're going to know as a result of this program and a result of your research, and there are things you're not going to know. And that's okay, because that's true of anybody in any profession. There are things that I know and things that I don't know. There are things that doctors know and lawyers know and things that they don't know. And that's okay. Confidence comes when you stand firmly on the knowledge that you do have. The knowledge that you have forms an underpinning, sort of like the slab of a building, cement solid slab. That's the underpinning, and you stand on that. You're not standing off of it, you're standing on it. Whatever your knowledge base is, you're standing firmly on it. And when you stand on something like that, you are always confident. Now, the moment you step off of it, you're no longer confident because you're talking about things you don't know. But when you stand on the knowledge that you have, and when you say things such as, I don't know, or I will look into that and get back to you, then you're still within your confidence zone. You're still speaking from a place of authority, a place of power. And when you do speak from that place, you should deliver things in a very powerful way. That doesn't mean you're yelling, that doesn't mean you're talking over people. That means that when someone asks you a question, you speak up, you speak clearly, and you give the full answer and nothing more. And that is going to allow you to have confidence in every situation. People love to get referrals. People love to get the next job. And when I had my office in Beverly Hills and I was hypnotizing celebrity clients, I would always find that they had friends who were celebrities. And it was wonderful. They would always refer someone. You don't always have to ask for a referral. Sometimes it just happens. If you feel that you want to grow your business, or if you feel things are moving slowly, or maybe if you're just starting, it really never hurts to ask your clients if they know someone else who needs help. Now, when I was working in my hypnotherapy office, it was sort of inappropriate to ask them, hey, do you know anyone else who wants to overcome their fears or anyone else who wants to accomplish what you're accomplishing? Because in some cases, what they were working on was very specific and something they didn't want people to know about. So it wasn't really appropriate. But in business coaching, it's almost always appropriate. Sometimes people will be hesitant to refer someone to you because it's their competition, but many business owners know people in a number of businesses, businesses that aren't in direct competition with theirs, and they will be more than happy to refer you. Maybe they think that your plate is full, that you have no room for referrals. So if you need referrals, ask, and you're going to find that if you're doing a great job, you're going to get them easily. Let's talk about getting in front of people and marketing yourself. You need to get in front of as many people as possible. When you have the opportunity to speak publicly, take the opportunity. Also, online advertising. You need to make sure you're advertising online. A lot of advertising is free. You can create YouTube videos, free. You can get a Facebook account, free. You can get a Facebook fan page, free. You can do all sorts of things online, free. It doesn't cost you anything, just a little bit of time, and sometimes you have to think creatively. The resources are available. You need to make sure you're using them, such as sending out emails to an email list. You need to also make sure that you're writing blogs, that you're writing articles for people in newspapers or magazines when they ask you to. You need to set yourself up as the expert in your field. And when you do that, you're going to get invitations. You need to make sure that you're taking advantage of these offers, making sure that you're getting things out there. So there are a lot of things you can do free, and there are a lot of things that you can do as a result of getting offers. Make sure that you take advantage of every situation, that you take an opportunity when it shows up. Let's talk about your unique differentiating proposition. Sounds like a mouthful, doesn't it? It's just what makes you special. What makes you different from everyone else? What makes me a different hypnotherapist or a business coach than anyone else? What makes you unique? What is it? It's interesting when you start looking into it. Sometimes it can be extreme. For example, I had the pleasure recently of meeting Sean Stevenson. You may have heard of him. He's called the 3 Foot Giant. He's about 3 feet tall and he's confined to a wheelchair. But when he rolls into a room, he is respected. He makes himself known. He makes himself heard. And he says things that make sense. And when he gets up in front of a crowd, he can motivate them and move them. And he is a wonderful person. He previously had a TV show. He is just a great guy. But he's got, through the fact that he was born a certain way. He's got his uniqueness already carved out for him. He's unique in that he has what may seem like limitations, but he's overcome them. And he serves as an example to people who may feel limited. You listen to Sean talk and you think, what the heck am I waiting for? What are my limitations? I don't have any. I'm not confined to a wheelchair. I can get out there and do things. Am I doing them? Am I taking advantage of the opportunities I have? And so you start to feel almost guilty and you start to feel motivated at the same time. So it's an interesting experience. That's something that's unique about Sean. It's not always that extreme. What's unique about you? Did you rise from rags to riches? Do you have a particular story? Do you have a history where you made some mistakes and you overcame them? What's unique about you? So rather than just saying that you're the best and you're better than everyone else and so forth, find out what's really unique about you. Tune into your story. We want to know what makes you unique and why we should go with you. So all of these things are important and use them as you move forward in this program. Join me in the next module as you learn even more.